Welcome to Nothing But Net. I'm Dave Rudin, and we're down to the Final Four in the FCIAC Basketball Tournament. We had 4 quarterfinal games yesterday. Not a lot of drama. That one game with end of game drama, but there wasn't a lot of fourth quarter excitement, unfortunately. But there was a lot of strategy discussed and a lot of hopefully good 2 good semifinal games that we're got to look forward to. And joining me as always, Mike Walsh. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I watched all 4 games and came away with the idea that we were right in most cases as to who the winner was going to be. Especially you. I think you picked them all. Maybe not Stanford and Danbury, but
I
you
I
had
took I
Staples.
took Stanford, but that to me was the game I had the hardest time with. I can't call Danbury winning an upset. I don't think the 3-6. I thought 3-6 and 4-5 were fairly close.
Yeah, I thought the 4-5 game was going to be a real close game, but Staples just went out and they played an excellent game, and Wilton didn't have one of their better games. So
I'm
Staples is in.
and we'll get to that, but I'm I'm a little surprised by the margin, but I think it's a credit to Joel that people were giving Wilton the chance that they did. I just think this is a different Wilton team than in the past, and I thought it was a real good matchup for Staples. But why don't we why don't we first, for anybody who may not have seen what happened in the 4 quarterfinal games, and we're going to break them down in the order they were played. Danbury was the only lower seed to advance with a 50-46 win over Stanford. Trumbull came away with a 57-38 win over Fairfield Ward. Danbury and Trumbull are going to meet in the early game Tuesday. Staples was a 60-43 winner over Wilton. And in the nightcap, top-seeded Ridgefield continued its undefeated run through the FCIAC with a 55-37 win over Fairfield Ludlow. The Staples Ridgefield will be the late game on Tuesday. And why don't we break them down, starting with the Danbury game, which was the one game that had some end of game fourth quarter excitement. Mike, you and I both watched the stream of the game, and we were communicating during it.
Yeah, that game. Cam Perkins started out the game with a couple of 3-pointers, which shows he can go outside. And also got an one in there. I think he had 12 points in the first quarter. Got Danbury off to a start and sort of shell shocked, I think, Stanford. Stanford, for 3 quarters, basically seemed like they were out of it. They're still on the bus, but they broke out in that fourth quarter and made it a really exciting game. I mean, it came down to the end where they had a shot to tie it. They came from, I think, 19 points down in that fourth quarter. And it shows that you never know what's going to happen in a basketball, especially a high school basketball game. And, 2 things you have to think about there. Danbury credit for executing a great game plan to start the game and for 3 quarters. And I think also for hanging in there when Stanford made a terrific run at him, led by E.J. Presley. I think he was the highest scorer for Stanford with 16 points. And they had an open shot with no time, I think 2.5 seconds left on the clock, but unfortunately for Stanford, it didn't go in. And fortunately for Danbury, they got the rebound, and Cam Perkins made 1 of 2 to basically end it. So Danbury moves on, but it was, as you say, exciting at the end, that fourth quarter. Really don't know what happened to Stanford in the beginning there. I think they got behind, and I think they kind of they went into the mode where we got to score quick, and they started taking a lot of 3-point shots, and they weren't hitting them. And it was really a question of that fourth quarter where they came back. If they played the first couple of quarters like they did the fourth, it might have been a different outcome. But it wasn't. Danbury hung in there, and I give credit to Cam Perkins. He really had him put him on his back, as he himself said, and then they started getting it inside to him, and Danbury won. Danbury goes on to Trumbull.
Yeah, Cam scored 21, and interesting, all of his scoring came in the first and the fourth quarter. So he got them off to a good lead, and he carried them over the finish line. It's kind of interesting. The first three games, the Stanford game, Danbury was the exception in that we got excitement to the end. But the three games, we saw teams jump out to big leads, and the losing team make big rallies and getting the game somewhat close or very close, and then the team that was winning kind of ran away with it after. Stanford, I thought, just looked shell-shocked early. I agree with you. They fell behind, and I think they got panicky and made the situation worse by trying to thinking they had to come back in 3 minutes rather than 24 minutes. And it took them a little while to find their mojo. And then once they did, they started chipping away in the third, put themselves in a position to be within striking range in the fourth, and made a real good run, got some bounce scoring. And then, E.J. Presley stepped up as he always does. And it was, they had a chance to tie the game. You can't ask for anything more than that. And it would have been something if that shot had gone in and the game had gone to overtime. I thought we also saw Danbury's experience in those games, even though there's a lot of turnover from a year ago. There's still the Perkins cousins and one or two other players. I thought, and that you said in the last podcast, that noon game is really a tough game to play. You're just really all out of sync, and your schedule is turned over. But I thought there was something to Danbury's experience in those games, maybe helping in the early going.
Well, I mean, let's face it, Danbury is the defending champ until somebody beats them. And I think that experience had a lot to do with it. Although I do think once they got the lead, they became a little bit sloppy with their offense. And I think that hurt them. That's how Stanford was able to come back. They took some bad shots, and Stanford was able to come back and take advantage of that. I was really surprised the way Stanford started, though, because I thought that they started putting it together this year, and I think that as I was shocked at their start, they were, as you said, shocked at their start, and then they started taking some tough shots, and they weren't going in, and Danbury was able to keep the lead through the three quarters. But you have to give them a lot of credit for coming back in that fourth quarter. A lot of teams would have just packed it in, but not the Stanford group. So I give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, and it's I know, and I learned a little bit more yesterday. The all FCIAC voting has been done, and I know the team will be announced Thursday. I do know that Cam and EJ each got at least one vote for Player of the Year, and yeah, it's like I said, that it's a testament. I bring that up only. It's a testament to the respect they have, and well earned to that with what they've done this year and what they've done the last couple of years. So we'll get to the semifinals at the end here. Trumbull, another Trumbull Fairfield Ward. Trumbull just jumped on Ward early, 39-19, and I got there live to the gym in the second quarter, and we know that Ward has really been struggling. We know that Trumble's been consistent and has Owen Bullback, which again, people are probably tired of hearing us talk about him, but he's a pretty important player to the team. And then towards credit, and we another conversation for another day. But when you're number 2 seed and you have to essentially play a road game, that makes I don't know if that's a big prize for being the 2 seed. But what made things different? This was the one game where both schools were not on vacation, so that was the one game where there were where there were good fan sections there. That was noticeably missing in the gym yesterday for the other games not having a lot of student sections, which makes a big difference. But Ward just started getting the ball inside to Kramer more for one thing, and that opened up some of their threes, and they got within 5 points with 6 minutes to go. And I think they ran out of a little gas, and Trumbull stabilized itself and started playing the way it's capable of. And next thing you know, they're on a 9-0 run, and it's a 14-point game. And the two players I thought were real valuable during the finish for Trumbull were Sean Wilson and Brandon Fowler. I thought they did a nice job. I was surprised. I actually think I was sitting and we'll get to I was sitting with Jim Moriarty yesterday, and I was saying to them, boy, they're not using clock. I didn't think they used as much clock as they should have later in the game, and they're taking these shots. And I said, why are they shooting them? But they're all going in.
Well, let me tell you, bring back some memories talking about my good friend Jimmy Moriarty, who I believe is head of the boys basketball committee still. So he has his hands in the FCIAC basketball, and that's a good thing. The thing about that game was Trumbull had it under control. They were playing well, and all of a sudden, Ward went to a zone. They were down 20 points, and Ward went to the zone, and Trumbull had a hard time. Even Buddy Bray said it in his comments. They took him out of the rhythm by going to the zone, and they cut it all the way down, as you said. But then I think Sam Wilson, who was an underrated, no, he's not underrated, but he's very important to that team. When he starts making good decisions offensively, which he did last night, made some really great passes to open up and made a couple baskets. But he got it defensively, he does a really good job. As I think you mentioned in the article, he fills up the stat sheets, and that he's an important part. I think the most important part is when he has the ball in his hands and makes good decisions. Trumbull's a much better team. And, he sets up guys like Johnson, and I think he had 17 Johnson, and Fowler had 10. But he's a real important. I thought he had a really, really good game. He kind of showed the poise that Trumbull needs him to be successful.
Yeah, you watched him yesterday. And if you're opposing coach, you're saying, "Oh man, we're gonna have to put up with this guy for 2 more years," where he's still raw. I still remember the first time I saw him, where he shut down Cam Perkins at home. I ended up interviewing him, but I know Buddy will put him on a lot of the other teams' top scorers. So he's already had a lot of value as a defender, and he rebounds really, really well for his size. I'm not sure where he is on he's got to be one of their leading rebounders. I mean, he may even be number one. He rebounds so well, but a lot of his scoring is based on whether there's good shots or not, and within the offense, and when he's playing within the offense and not just rushing shots, he's just a multi-dimensional player. He just does a really good job. And we saw it again yesterday.
I mean, he makes them better. There's no question about it. They have a really nice combination. When he's playing well, and Johnson is playing well, Fowler's playing well, and I don't know, Joey Threes didn't have any yesterday, so
Joey Threes was his turn to not have to do a lot of the scoring. They didn't need Joey Threes yesterday to do it. They were getting. Hey, I got to ask you, and you brought it up, and we talked about this a little bit on my ride home yesterday. Would Would you open a game? There are so few point guards, real true point guards in the league this year. You could go around and almost nobody has a real true point guard. Would you open the game and press and play zone just to until you saw a team be able to handle the press or be able to attack the zone well?
Well, it
They
would
never
depend
see
on
it. They never see it. So why not throw it at them?
it would depend on my personnel, whether I had the personnel to be able to press. Uh, I think sometimes that's a great surprise. You open up the game and maybe get you off to a good start. But these coaches know their players and they know their capabilities. And one of the things that these teams have to have is depth. In order to press, you have to have some talented players, obviously, but you have to be able to have some depth. And I think one of the things outside of maybe a couple teams, and Ridgefield being one, maybe Staples and Trumbull, is you have to have a little bit of depth, people coming off the bench, and you have to have the people that can press. Um, and I'm not so sure that I've seen a lot of that in the league, and that's probably why they don't press. The thing that surprises me is the zone, though. I
Not
look at
more
this
so.
Ward team. I don't think Ward played too much zone all year long. When they did last night, Trumbull really struggled against the zone. And maybe it's because they didn't think they were going to see it and didn't practice against it. But attacking the zone is more difficult than it looks. I mean, you can't just rely on passing it around the zone and firing up a three-pointer. You have to go inside. You have to use what we call the short corner on the baseline. And if you do that, I think it can be successful. But I mean, how many teams practice against it because how many teams really use it? That was the thing that brought Ward back into the game. And Trumbull, to their credit, figured it out. And the thing about Trumbull, they have to be able to run to be successful, I think. They get points off the fast break along with their offense against the man. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're playing Danbury, that Casey Bach is playing a little bit of zone in practice today.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to talk to coaches how much time they spend in practice playing the zone and how much attacking the zone. I bet you it's real little. Maybe not at all for some teams. I don't know. You just see it so infrequently. And to me, it's one of 100 things that makes college basketball better than the NBA. It's just a strategic element. I love the
Well,
fact that number one, I love the fact you actually play defense in college. But number two, I love the fact that it gets strategic and you can change to so many defenses. You have variations of the zone. You have box and ones and triangle and twos, diamond and ones. It's just especially the way offenses are right now. If you have the personnel and you can teach defense a lot more easily, I would be mixing defenses up.
Well, I think several factors come into what you're talking about. I think a lot of coaches are hesitant to play zone because of the three-point shot. They don't want to get beat by somebody getting hot on the three-point shot, and therefore they figure man to man they can stop that. Whereas, as Jim Boheim at Syracuse proved, that's not necessarily true. He was very good at defending the three-point shot out of the 2-3 zone. But it's more of a matchup now than just a 2-3 zone where you stand around. Things have changed and coaches have changed. But I think it's harder to teach a zone, by the way, and than the man to man. And there's same principles in a lot of them. But in any event, the only reason we're talking about it is that Ward used it effectively against Trumbull.
And it kind of shows you we've seen some teams in brief moments. And it's kind of a good segue about, mixing defenses and getting away, is the Staples Wilton game, which was the next game. And it's kind of interesting the differences between the regular season meeting and yesterday's games, which you and I privately have spent the most time talking about. When the teams met in the regular season, we probably saw Wilton's best half of basketball. In the first half, they take a big lead, and Wilton face guarded Sam Klocko, the Rutgers leading scorer, held them to 8 points and not one 3-point shot. Uh, Unfortunately for Wilton in that game, Staples was able to get 15 3-point shots, including a majority of them from two different players. And Staples played much better defense in that game in the second half and won. Yesterday, Joel got away from that and decided to show a different look and throw a bunch of multi defenses that way. And Klocko scored 12 of his 29 points in the first quarter, and Staples got off to a big lead, and for the most part, didn't really have any moments of panic in their victory. So, kind of interesting, the change in defense and how the dynamic Klocko was able to get shots and score.
Well, in my opinion, Clashco is a real key to stopping Staples. And I think Joe felt that in the first game when they met in the regular season. And I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you, why he didn't come back with that. Maybe he figured that Staples had figured out a way to attack it. I don't know. But the problem in that game is once Wilton got behind, and they got behind because Clashco had a great first quarter, they really had trouble scoring. They were taking outside shots, but not hitting them. And then they decided to go inside, but by that time they were down 15 points, and it was kind of tough to come back. I don't know. That first game, I think maybe he was a little leery of the fact that Sikorsky hit 5 threes and Lohman hit another 5 threes, I think, something of that nature. And they didn't want to give that up. So, but Klotchko hurt him big time, I thought. Yes, he ended up with 29, and as I say, Wilton just had a bad day, and I'm surprised the way they played it. But Joel knows the team better than I do, so I think he wanted to give him a change up, and a little afraid of what Trumbull might have planned to attack his face guarding of Klotchko.
The one area where Joel really had it right, he told me before the game they were going to pound it inside, try to pound it inside because they didn't think Staples could stop them, and they couldn't. Wilton was scoring at will when they got the ball inside to Anderson Campbell for the most part. The problem is they really didn't make pounding the ball inside a primary focus until they had fallen behind by so much. And they needed to get threes to try to get back into the game. I think Klocko had a big game. I'll tell you the person that, two players, the person who influenced the game, I think as much as Klocko did, was Caleb Smith on the defensive end of the court.
I agree.
He's an unbelievable defensive player. What Caleb Smith probably did, stopping points defensively was probably the defensive equivalent of scoring 29 points offensively. Plus he scored 12 points as well. So, probably the biggest compliment you can give an athlete is to say that kid's a winner. And Caleb Smith during his times at Staples, and I keep forgetting he's also a lacrosse player. And Staples is the 2-time defending state champion in lacrosse. All the boys teams that are having the most success at Staples, Caleb Smith's on those teams. So I think his defense is as important as to what they do offensively. And the other, well, one other guy I want to bring up, but you seem to be in agreement with Caleb.
Well, I just think that having a kid like Caleb Smith on your team is a tremendous asset. I mean, he's a winner, as you said. He's all-state in football. I don't know what he is in lacrosse, but I bet she's pretty good. and his teams have won. And he's a senior. He knows how to lead that way. As you say, he plays defense. I think the other thing is he sets some pretty good screens on people, which frees guys like Sam Klatsko up. He's just an important ingredient, and I think Coach Gosler has said that, and he's really important. In the beginning of the year, I think he was out, right? He was injured. He didn't play.
Well, he
And
was in the beginning of the year, and then he had a shoulder injury that they played down at the end of football season. But he played the end of football season with a shoulder injury, and it was acting up, and he decided they were just going to rest him until he was 100%, rather than having this be a nagging injury through basketball, and basketball runs right into lacrosse season.
well, it's to Staples fortunate to get him healthy, and at this time of year, he's an important ingredient to their team. And I thought the other guy, when it was close, when I say close, they got within I think 6 or 8 points. He made two big layups in Adam Udall, and he's another piece to their puzzle. You know, we talk about the other teams like Trumbull and Ridgefield who have personnel. Well, so does Staples. When you look, I was not as convinced as you, and you were absolutely right. Staples has some people that can play, and they have depth. And adding Caleb Smith, a healthy Caleb Smith, to that group makes them even better. So, I mean, I think they have a legitimate shot at beating Richfield. And you look at the last game. Obviously, you can't tell; it was so early in the season. But you know, who knows? Richfield, he does some great things, and we'll talk about that as we get to the quarterfinals. But they have a really good chance.
Udall was what I was saving for after Caleb Smith. What little drama there was in this game. Staples had a 19-point lead, and Wilton whittled it down to 8 with 6.5 minutes to go. And Udall came back and made 2 layups, one on a really nice twisting move, and that put that was the end of Wilton's comeback. The Staples went on a run. Staples. I've been saying, I talked the way I described them. I've said I thought they were the solid 4th best team in the league with personnel. And the way I mentioned, I was talking to, I think it was with Mo yesterday. I said, if Stanford and Staples, in terms of 3-4, played their very best games, I would like Stanford better, but I trust Staples more than Stanford to play their very best game.
Well, and looking at and seeing them in action, I think Staples actually, their personnel may be a little deeper than Stanford because they can bring a couple of guys off the bench. Stanford basically plays 5, but right now we just have to worry about Staples and Richfield, and that's coming up.
1, 2, 3, 4 doesn't really matter anymore. So
no, exactly.
it's the way I've kind of looked at the season. But let's not a lot to talk about this game. It was the least exciting by far game of the day, and that was Ridgefield's 55-37 win over Fairfield Ludlow. The main excitement came when Ludlow was up 12-6 after the first quarter. And
well, I was excited when they were up 12-6. I thought maybe Ludlow could.
You're at that point. You're hoping maybe it's easier to get a favorite in the first round than it is later on in the tournament. So what buzz there was in the crowd was everybody wants to root for an underdog, but Ridgefield took care of that real quickly with a 15-0 run to take control of the game. And then in the second half with a 14-2 run. So 2 runs that were basically 29-2. And I'll tell you what, Swadowitz, he's become a consistent double-digit scorer for them, and that's made a big difference. He's scored 14 points and I bet you he's on a run. I don't know how many games, but I bet you he's on a run of double-digit games based on the score. And the other thing that I came away with, man, did John Daly do a great coaching job to get this team into the playoffs?
Well, as you said, there wasn't a heck of a lot of excitement except for that first quarter. His kids at Ludlow played really, really hard. I thought all year, and especially early in this game. But Richfield has too many answers. Swiatowicz is really coming on, which helps him a lot. Skenga inside. I mean, he's dominant. Something the other three teams, even in the quarterfinals, don't have. And obviously Alistair Walsh, Alex Hickey. The thing that I want to find out is the point guard. Is he out for the year, or is he going to be able to come back?
He doesn't look like he's coming back anytime soon, based on the way he was yesterday.
Well, I mean, I think that could be an Achilles heel for Richfield if someone's going to beat him. But I wouldn't count on it because you always have somebody who steps up and fills the gap, and that's the great job Andrew's done. He kind of has these kids that come in off the bench and make things happen. But I think Staples and Rich,
they have the best depth in the league. So why don't we real quickly here break down the two semifinal games fast? Danbury Trumbull, what do you say?
Well, I think Trumbull has too many pieces. I think they can score 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures, whereas obviously Danbury has to rely on Cam and also Nez Perkins to do a lot of their scoring. But you know what? They're the defending champs. And I'm sure that, as I said before, Casey is working on a zone that might give Trumbull a little bit of credit. But I have to give Trumbull the edge in this game. And I think that they're going to be able to come out on top.
Yeah, to me, this game is easy in terms of depth. I think Trumbull has more of it. With Cam Perkins, you always give Danbury a puncher's chance because Cam Perkins does Cam Perkins things. I think they're going to need another player to step up and have a really big game. One or two players, one player to at least get them, 12, 15 points. And then hope Danbury plays good Danbury plays good defense. Staples Ridgefield. Staples beat Ridgefield twice last year and knocked them out in the semifinals. So there's a rematch. And they played the very first game after the Christmas break, and that game looked like it. And Ridgefield won at Staples by 2. Staples have a chance?
I think Staples does have a chance in that game. But again, as you notice, when Richfield plays a team that has a great scorer, they tend to shut them down. They did the thing against the Mahoney brothers, who were really, really leading Ludlow. I think Tate Mahoney, who I think is a really good player, only had 5 points. And Andrew even said afterwards, we had to hold the Mahoney boys down, and they did. And I think that, they're going to put an emphasis on trying to stop Sam Klatsko. So what's going to have to happen is the other boys are going to have to step up and help Sam out and put some scoring. They play really good defense. It's tough to score on Richfield. And I think the other thing that might give Richfield an edge is on the boards. As you saw how Wilton went inside and scored at will many times against Staples. I think that Skenga will have a big game against Staples. But, you've been high on Staples, and I haven't been quite as high, and they always seem to find a way. And as I said, I think a guy like Caleb Smith, who's been there and done that, is going to help them. Now, when you look at the football season, not only people picked him to win the state championship, but Caleb Smith took him to the state championship. Uh, and maybe he can do the same thing with his basketball team too. So uh, I'd give him a chance, but I still think Richfield is the most talented.
I'm curious to see, this is a neutral court and Ridgefield's played its best basketball at home. So I think that's a dynamic that I'm interested to see. Ridgefield just again has a lot of depth. I'll be interested to see what kind of defense they play. Are they going to try to shut Klacko down? Or are they going to kind of concede that Klacko is going to score 20 to 25 and they're going to shut everybody else down, figuring if Klacko gets 20 to 25, but everybody else is shut down there, that's another path to victory.
Uh,
State.
well, I was just going to say, I don't think Andrew is going to specifically face guard Glasgow, but his kids play such great defense. They'll always be aware of where he is, and make it difficult for him to score. I think that the other kids will have to score some there too. But the other thing that
I think
might give it a
I
little.
just think it's just, yeah, we're gonna, we'll have to see what happens there. I just think and I give Staples a shot. I don't think this is a game where you say that they don't have a chance. Again, they're gonna see, they do tend to have other guys that that step up, a Sikorsky who could do it. One of the younger kids. So they have other guys on that team. They can win. I mean, they've won games where Klacko's been shut down. But I know Ridgefield is talking about they want to, they remember that their streak ended last year, so
they
that's gonna
they
be a
have
big part
motivation.
of it. So we're gonna talk about maybe having a special we're gonna see about having after the semifinal, maybe a Wednesday podcast. But that's this episode of Nothing But Net. Again, I want to thank Mike. I want to thank Cooper Boardman for the sound editing, and we'll be back. Enjoy the semifinals.
Enjoy.